we are in the group now, so we can resume about the like everything that Chrissy and Jason were sharing about divine parenting, and how important you felt it was to embrace these teachings, and how much the mirror exercise has helped you find places within yourself that you were also like numbing out to experiences that you as well went through as a kid
numbing
growing
out
up.
to just really that place of joy and that place of they had brought up the cards, and one of the things that I've experienced lately is just how natural it is for children to be in a place of joy and kind of like see the world in awe and wonder. And I think it was Shaleia who said this at one point, but really we think that we have to teach our children to be just like us and to do all of these things, but really we need to learn from them and come back to a place in the space that they choose to do life from, which is just love and peace. And kids are very compassionate. Kids are very straightforward. They're very intuitive. They're the closest thing to source. And so through this work, I've been very open-minded to really listening to my kids and really listening to what they have to say and their feelings and how they express themselves, and giving them that space where they're secure and safe to be able to express those things to me, and know that they're going to be received and loved. And so this work has definitely, I started this work off becoming a newly single mom. And so I was in a place where it was just, I felt like the world was falling apart and I didn't know how to be there for my children. But because of this work, I'm a very present, very loving mother that they get to have and get to experience. And they would just remind me all the time, like, I love you so much and I'm so grateful God gave me to you, or gave you to me, just things like that. And so like it's shifted so much in my household just because of the mirror exercise and this work.
Yeah, I've had the same experience with my son, for instance, and being a single parent, I can completely relate to what you were saying. When I learned that I was becoming a mom and I knew the situation that my kid was being born into, I was like, oh my God, what do I do now? And then after finding these teachings, I know that like I couldn't even come to the realization that my son and I, we both share very basically the same core blocks. So by me working through them, I can actually guide him through them, or at least invite him into that space and see if he chooses to do that with me. But it's very powerful to know that you can start transcending and reverting all these patterns that you were also taught by your parents, because most people didn't know this tool, didn't know how to be present and actually like unconditional loving your children, like seeing as human beings that they will have a life of their own, they will choose to walk their path, and really being able to give them the tools so that they can fly from the nest really, and still be sure that they know how to go around life from a very healthy space. I know that this is something that, for instance, struck me when I was growing up. Like I didn't want to become a parent or a mom when I was younger, because I felt it was such a huge responsibility, and I knew I was going to teach this person something. I wanted to make sure that I would teach him like essentially God, essentially love. So I would love to hear about some other experiences of my friends and colleagues here.
Yeah.
Si Kelly wants to share, Amaru.
Yeah, like you said, from the childhood you never wanted, then it took me back into my childhood. I actually always wanted a baby. I was not sure whether I'm going to marry or not, but I was very sure, I wanted a baby. I never understand why, but and there was always a drive, I want a baby, but I never want to treat him or her the way my parents have treated me, because my childhood was very abusive, and I never felt that love or nourishment. It was always in the fear. So I always picturized, when I will have a baby, I will treat, in this way. I will treat in that way. So that imagination was always there. And then, I got married to my soulmate, before meeting my twin flame. And then I had my baby, and I first was a miscarriage, then that, threw me off from the desire. And then I started getting into a divine process. In India, there are some divine processes are available, how to, how you can connect with the divine and rear the child before, you get into the, pregnancy situation. So I found that teacher, and first we went through that spiritual cleanup of the past child, and then we started the process. And there were, every month there were some exercises were given, so that, you connect with the baby every month when the baby is growing and all that. So I developed that relationship from the pregnancy and even before the pregnancy. So it was like, I was so welcoming to have my baby. But then, when actually I manifested him, and then all those, my shadow part, when it started, falling off, because my reality was not based on truth before I met my twin flame. Then I started projecting, every all my fear onto my child, like the way, like as if, he is the reason because of which I'm stuck and all that thing. And then I found the real work with Jeff and Shaleia, and after doing the mirror exercise, I got to find that, okay, this is my upset. It's not my child who is responsible for my situation. And then I started, it real divine relationship, where I was able to see, even Michaela is my coach. She know that, anytime I have a child upset, we heal through mirror exercise. In the reality, we have seen, he has, developed into a healthy situation in a disciplined situation. And yes, I started, anytime I feel like, I'm going off, I'm not feeling loving, I just go within and do my inner work, and I learn a lot. Because by healing, whatever he is mirroring to me, whenever I'm healing that, I'm getting that confidence within myself. When I'm now rearing by myself, I'm now a single parent, and I'm able to do it. And this feels really good. Rearing with God, co-parenting with God feels really good. And yes, that control, that, that He can do the way He wants. That's what I'm going through now. Now He is also saying, like, just let me do the way I want to do. Now is the new statement He has found. Whenever I'm trying to get into His space, He's, let me do the way I want to do. Then you tell me. And then I said, okay, I will step back and allow Him to do. And but yes, this feels really, really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah, our kids can be really challenging, and at the same time, they are perfect mirrors as well. I've seen
Truly.
countless times that I don't really like, I don't need my twin flame triggering me. I have my kid with me all the time, and like, of course, we are mirroring each other. So, and they also
Yeah.
kind of like are a great way to learn how to surrender, because if someone or something that you cannot control is a kid, especially when they are like having their moments, and they are
Mm,
really emotional and they don't know how to handle all that energy.
truly.
So being able to ground them also into that space of peace, like I tried that with my son, and it works. Like, it doesn't matter if it takes 5 minutes or 45 minutes. If it means giving him the space to throw a fit or a tantrum, and then inviting him over and over, and really building that patience,
I
because
know.
yeah, it's like we are all guiding each other home. So if we cannot be patient with ourselves and with another, guiding that guidance is really um, more difficult, perhaps.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I know it's such a blessing to have them in our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. The specifically, it developed my patience, when he lose his emotions and gets into the tantrum and all. So I used to flow with his energy, but after getting into the spiritual work, I now just do the healing within myself, and I allow him to feel his emotions,
Mhm.
and then it becomes natural to come back into peace. And then the way you describe that, then invite them into the discussion, invite them for next choice. Yeah.
Yeah, we can always extend the invitation, but it's up to them, as you already pointed out. Like, it's up
Right.
to everyone to
Right.
choose whether they want to receive that or not.
Mm.
Maybe this time they don't, but some other time they do, and it's kind of like just. Uh, and I also like saw that the card reading was so resonating with the topic. It's learning to fall into the flow and starting to enjoy the process and really releasing any attachments to it. Because yeah, of course, like, we all got our days, kids included. So there might be some days when they are like, I don't want to do anything with you, and some other where they are going to be more receiving, and that's okay. But it's
Yeah, there was something that Shaleia had touched on too, was that she was like, there was times where I just needed more sleep, and like I was not allowed that. And I didn't even think like that. Of course, that's a way of self-care. But I had one of my children who are doing online schooling. He just woke up and he's like, I am just so tired. I can't even sit here, mom. And my part of me wanted to do what like society is like, no, he needs to be in class for the next 45 minutes. And he is like telling me, I am not okay here. Can I please go back to sleep? And allowing him that was a whole, here's a child, allowed peace in our house.
This has the card.
Okay, I'll be right there. Can you please shut the door? Thank you, baby. Learning how to
and
discipline
boundaries.
here. Boundary,
They are
absolutely.
great,
Please shut the door.
great to learn
Please
boundaries.
shut the door. Thank you. Okay, here you are.
And we inviting them to be part of when they want to be part of whatever it is that we are doing. Like what Kanisha was experiencing just now, I had it sometimes in my coaching practice as well, where my son wants to be part of the just being there,
Mm-hmm.
and me having to learn how to relax, as you were saying, like that relaxation. Kids are so natural with it. Oh, I want to
Yeah.
play. Okay, let's go play. Oh, I want to rest, and then go rest. They don't really have that structure, and even though we all need certain structure, we also need to learn how to flow between like having a balanced like a solid again structure. No, it's like a spine that
Yeah.
gives you a little bit of guidance, but at the same time allowing yourself to flow. It's like no opposites are ever good. It's always a middle ground between them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like the biggest lesson, is really having to just listen to them, instead of coming from like my perspective or feeling like you have to do this, this, and this. It's like really allowing them to start to make their choices and have that free will.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot of surrender control. I've seen myself doing that a lot. Um, where my kid wants to do something and he's like really insistent, and I'm like, should I let go of this and go that direction? And sometimes, yeah, of course, God is going to move through our children as well. So it's really getting to know ourselves at the core, and from that space, knowing how we can also how we want to relate to them and how we choose to relate to them, because they are not separate. They are also part of our reality as well, and they are part of our union. That's why we manifested them somehow. Doesn't matter if it wasn't
Absolutely.
ideal. Like I love what like Chrissy and Jason were very like getting to that point across very much, which is having the appropriate foundation.
Mhm.
And that is something that I would love. Uh, I would have loved to find these teachings before even becoming a parent 7 years ago, so that I could make a more conscious choice of bringing him into a more supportive environment. But that's okay. Like God is very purposeful in whatever situation that happens and arises. So just gotta like, it's like getting on a bike. You just get on the bike and you start riding it, and you just like
Absolutely. And I found with
put
this
one
work,
foot of
because
the
I
other.
was a mother, I disciplined myself to go deeper with this work because I was already a parent and I was already seeing how my patterns were transitioning to my children. And so because of being a parent already, I had decided to go deeper and really commit to this work so that I could also be with my twin flame and call in their twin flames as well, my children's twin flames.
Yeah, I'm completely feeling you, Leah. I completely resonate with you, Kanisha. This is exactly what I was going through when I found these teachings. And at the beginning, um, I didn't know how to handle being a single parent and doing my inner work. But then I realized that by me respecting and honoring myself first, I can actually give him space to do the same for himself. Um, I don't know. I would love to listen. I know that Kelly wanted to share as well. I don't know if you feel
Sure,
called
thank
to.
you so much. Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome.
So I just wanted to say, so I feel like I called. I was married. I was engaged to a soulmate, and I was calling in unconditional love. I just had that realization today, actually. Just in realizing that that's why I brought my child. She was wanted, but not quite planned, and so I realized that I was really calling in that unconditional love, and I thought I was calling it with my soulmate, right? But I just want to say that I feel like you know, my daughter's absolutely been the pivotal piece to my ascension, and you know, and I feel like, you know, going back to what Christy was saying about cultivating a space for them to have a relationship with their own father and mother God, like, you know, that's such a natural process. Like what Kanisha was saying about, you know, our kids are the closest thing to source, right? They really are. And, you know, they're calling for our attention in places that need to be healed. And, you know, I remember telling my daughter when she was even, you know, years ago, telling her, okay, I'm going to teach you about the world, and you can teach me about God. And that we were really co-parenting one another in these areas, because our children are calling in their divinity. They're calling in the things that they want in life. You know, for instance, my daughter loves horses, you know. I sure wish she would learn to, it sure would be easier for me if she would love ballet and she could dance ballet in my studio. It'd be a lot easier for me, right? But no, she loves horses, and I'm like, okay, all right. And now I'm really just creating the space, you know, and that's her calling is really also my calling to bring in more resources and more finances so that I can support her wishes. And then realizing, oh, well, actually that was a childhood dream of mine as well. And so, you know, it's not an accident that we have these little beings to raise. And I wanted to share too, real quick, before I pass it on, is that you know, it's so easy to cultivate this relationship by just making things available. I remember putting like a couple of apps, like a little like Jesus apps or whatever, you know, like Bible stories and things like that on her tablet. And so that's really how I just introduced it. It's just making things available. And then, you know, now my daughter knows the Bible stories better than I do. And she'll ask me questions, and it just has opened up a huge conversation about what spirituality is and how to, you know, what we're navigating through. So I just wanted to share, because I feel like it's been a really natural process for us to bring in spirituality that way for Sarah and I. And anyway, it's been beautiful. Anyway, pass it on.
No, I love that. And I felt the same way a couple of years ago when my kid started like developing his passion for trains, and like you know, that the small scale trains and stuff. And I was like, I would love to have that solid financial foundation so that I can support him in his dream, in pursuing this. And like that moment that clicked, it felt so wonderful to know that you can be behind them, supporting them in such a loving way. Um, like I don't know if anyone was like, if every single parent in the world will embrace these teachings even halfway, how many dreams would be much easier to accomplish. So, but I don't know, for me it's it's really wonderful to see that opportunity, you know, that open door to actually transcending how we were raised, perhaps most of us, with not so much support, perhaps, or our parents not knowing even what how to handle the situation. Because as Chrissy and Jason were sharing, there were at the beginning, when they were tapping into it, they believed that they wanted 2 children. They were seeking clarity. And Jason was sharing how he also felt at a certain point in his life that, oh, okay, so life is basically growing up, getting a title like a degree, going to work, finding someone, settling down, having family, and not being really aware of the choices that are being made or whether it's supportive to yourself as well. I know my parents, for instance, chose to have 2 children, and there were moments where I was wondering, were they realizing if this was the most compassionate to them as well? And were they able to ask themselves at any given point, okay, do I want 2 children just because society says so, and this is like a family type? Do I want more? Do I want less? I found like the more I kept on healing and going deeper with this work, I started picking up on this stuff around in my family as well. Like I saw it with my grandma, where she would also, like, honestly speaking, she once told me that if she knew then what she knows now, she would have chosen differently. She would rather have 1 kid and be able to handle like that context rather than having 2, because that was what was expected of her. So I think it's really encouraging and interesting that once you come into these teachings, you start learning the work, you start healing yourself, you can also claim that clarity for yourself, and you can build a family unit that is compassionate to everyone who's involved. It's your twin flame, your harmonious union at the core, and making all those loving choices, not only for you, but for the person that you're bringing into that reality as well. So I would love to listen like to her from Jose and Michaela.
Yeah, we love to share.
Yeah.
Yeah, we wanted to share about when Chrissy and Jason said about support and all the foundation that you need to have. We are not parents yet, but we are realizing how important it is to have that foundation in your life, not only economical, because that is a thing that, you know, other people think that
It's the only foundation.
yeah, you have the money, yeah, that's it.
Like there's a sermon, but there's tons of ways you need to support yourself.
Yeah, because if you don't, you know, if you don't know how to handle your things, how are you going to teach them? Like, or if you don't have the emotional space for yourself, how do you expect that your kid is going to have that? You know, you close that window. So you need to be open with your feelings and open with everything that you are doing. And in that space, like being emotionally supportive, spiritually, like everything. But for doing that, you need to start
within,
by yourself, within,
That's where we're at. Like, I really resonated with Chrissy when she said she never grew up like planning to be a mother or even planning to get married, and I was the same way. Like I never, like, I was actually against having children for all of my life, basically. But coming into harmonious union actually helped me realize that I do desire, like, to raise a child, just not the way the world raises children, you know. But I didn't ever realize that there was like another way, and so that's why I was like, well, why? Yeah, like I just never felt like it was my thing. But to raise like a child on the foundation of like harmonious union with your twin flame and, you know, with God at the center, then that's completely like a whole different ballgame. But it does require like incredible support, and us coming together helped us realize where we like really need to do some healing in this area. So yeah, we appreciated the sermon today because it, for me, helped me realize like that it's safe to really fully support myself, for us to support ourselves completely, and to like not ever, because I think a pattern that parents have is like putting their child before themselves. And so they're like taking, you know,
taking from themselves for the child, then it's just an imbalance. And I would never want to raise a child in an imbalanced way. And so we're just focused on support. And this sermon was really very helpful for us to just really choose that and ground.
Yeah, and it's very important what you said about not sacrificing, because you cannot actually support the kid if you do that.
Yeah.
Like, you think you give to them, but you are giving emptiness because you are empty. You are what can you give? If you are your cup is empty, you need to fill yourself first. And when you're stable and you have that overflow of support and emotional stability, you can say it openly.
Yeah. In a peaceful way. And Chrissy said it takes a village to raise a child. I loved what they said about spiritual community being so important, because it's not just you raising the child, it's their whole environment. And so you want the environment to be completely supportive of their thriving as adults. And
what they said about raising children with their twin flames, and that you are not the only one raising them, is the other parents too, because you have your kid and your kid's twin flame. There's more support that you have there, and that union grows in a more stable way, tons of support, tons of love and peace.
And then one more thing is I liked what Chrissy said about if you already have a child and you're working towards your harmonious union, you just choose to live a God-centered life, and then that's it. And you can just expand your parenting that way. It's really beautiful. And it's nice to see everyone's experience and how the work changed their parenting. And I know with Madhu, it's really incredible to see Madhu work through upsets with his son, because his son is very receptive to the spiritual work. So it's really beautiful. This is a huge gift to be able to give your children.
And they are sponges. Whenever they feel a little love in the air, they come right to it. So it's wonderful. Thank you guys for sharing that. I was feeling into it, and it was I want my kids to know their twin flame as well. And I cannot think of anything better than the gifts that I can pass on. Before, when I was younger, I was I don't want to pass this pile of crap, and then I know that I can pass something even better. None of that can it can stay where it was. I can honor it for where it was. It can remain in the past, but it doesn't have to continue. It doesn't have to carry on. And I don't know, the last few words from Chrissy were very touching to me. I was kind of in tears when coming back to that place of realizing what an honor it is that a soul has chosen you to guide them. What a high privilege. Thank you, Chrissy. She's saying that you are incredible parents and your children are blessed.
Thank you.
I just received that. Yeah, thank you.
I think
you've been parents to our community as well.
Yeah, they have.
They've been there, holding our hands all the way through whatever the process is.
Chrissy was actually the person to tell me that my child was my soul family, and that he was showing me my upsets. I was like, oh, is that what he's doing? She's like, yeah. And that's when I started healing that. She pointed that out to me. I was gonna say, one of my favorite things about this work that I realized too, because we think our parents don't have this work, but through us, they can. And because I choose to have God at the center of my life, and I use the mirror exercise, and I parent my children the way that I do, both my parents have recognized it and have acknowledged it, and have both spoken on how they wish they would have had this kind of wisdom when they were raising me. And they're like, I'm learning how to kind of be a better parent just by watching you, and understand that you can always come from a place of peace, because they noticed that they were always coming from a place of anger or sadness anytime they needed to discipline us. It was always a projection. And as we have gotten older, and I've learned like I've learned more about my parents and some of the things that they've gone through, I now understand my childhood and the way that they projected. And it allows me a deep level of forgiveness for them and understanding that they were only teaching me what they know and giving me what they know. And so I'm so very grateful that I can make a new choice here for my entire family just by healing and using the mirror exercise. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just by embodying the teaching. Thank you for sharing that, Kenisha, because I wasn't realizing that it goes like both ways. It goes into your past, but into your future, so to speak. Like your kid is your future in a way, and your parents are your past. Mm-hmm. And you made me realize that my grandmother and my mom were like witnessing that as I embraced this, and was creating that space with my son where we can work through any upsets together. Mm-hmm. And knowing that we are eternal beings and that we can choose to like reincarnate and pick up from where we left off, so to speak. One of the things that I was realizing as you were speaking was that my mom got to see this work through me. And so if she chooses to come back, then she can choose to find her way into these teachings as well. So it was like finding out that you can plant seeds everywhere you go. Mm-hmm. And give mm-hmm. that chance. Like your parents can either step into healing now, but even if they don't choose to, they can still choose to come back to Earth. And in that new experience, they can choose to align with love and align with God and find these teachings. Like, I don't know, it's like precious to know that this is here forever. So it doesn't matter where you come from or where you go, you can always find it and you can always apply it. And you can start like touching everybody's lives, whether you're a parent, even as you as a kid, like perhaps like Jose and Michaela don't have children, but they are children on their own. And I know that they've been healing through family stuff as well. So it's also you as a child can also share this with your parents, regardless whether they take it or leave it. And they can, I don't know, wherever life takes them, they can always choose to find this and embrace it, even if it's not in this lifetime experience. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
I don't know. Anna, I see you have your mic open. I don't know if you want to share anything about the sermon or...
Oh, well, it was just all beautiful, and thank you everyone for sharing like the lovely stories, and everything just resonates. And as you see, like my son came in because every time I am, he just feels all the unconditional love. Both my children do. So a little backstory: I've got two children, 8 and 4. My first child was actually from a soulmate, and he was a blessing. I tell him every day he was God's gift, because I had a miscarriage before I had him, and I just loved him so unconditionally. And that was the one decision that I always chose to make, was that my children would always feel so loved and so safe, because as a lot of us, we didn't have that as growing up. I always knew I wanted children and I wanted to be married and have a family. I always wanted girls, but God blessed us with 2 beautiful boys, very troublesome and bouncy live boys, that mirror and reflect a lot for me to heal. So, and then my second child, Elijah, is actually my twin flames. So we're in separation at the moment, but we are parenting together. And when I found this work, which I am so blessed to, so now I can find a lot more deeper peace, knowing that all this time I have parented with God and I have parented with my twin flame, because I always felt very alone I was doing it all by myself. And I didn't have the support from others. So I was very angry and frustrated, and it brought up a lot. And then after finding this work, now I can share it with, like, everybody is sharing it with my boys, and sometimes they listen and they want to, you know, I can guide them through it, to do the mirror exercise and showing them how they can heal their upsets rather than being codependent and, you know, looking at from outside the self, which is something that they have mirrored within me, which I have been healing and going deeper with, and just showing them that they are so loved, and we work through it each stage. I already believe, like, my eldest is calling in his twin flame, because he asks, what are twin flames? What does it mean, Mum? I've just got angel bumps. Like, it just brings me so much love that I know that they, through this work, they will not have to suffer. And that was the one choice I made, was I do not want my children to suffer like I did. I want them to grow and, you know, be able to love the self without being independent on somebody else. And God showed me the school, and this is and the support from the family. And as you see, my children end up coming in because they want to learn as well, and they want to feel the love from others.
Yeah, my kid also like jumps in whenever I'm doing a video for the YouTube channel or something. It's like, oh, Mom, I want to do it with you.
Yeah.
Or he even encouraged me. It's like, oh, Mom, are you making videos today or something like that? And he loves, like, even listening to it, even if he doesn't quite ask about twin flames yet. He's still like, kids do have a natural for this. Again, you throw some little unconditional love there, and they are all over it. Because, as Kanisha said, they are the closest to the source, to the divine.
Yeah. And
haven't
God,
been so polluted by social and cultural conventions and yada yada. So all that noise is outside. It doesn't kind of affect them.
no.
So the fact that we can bring them into these teachings, even like just by doing something simple, something small, as inviting them into having a space for themselves and move through whatever they need to move through without us like harassing them or oh no, don't have to cry, don't cry. Like, I've seen this play out, for instance, with my kids.
Yeah. No, that's the
Being
one
in
thing that I
public
always make.
situations as well, like being in public situations and saying people, like setting a boundary with people and saying, no, that's okay, let him have this moment. It's okay for him to let it out, because after that we can work through it. And you can also pick up on these kind of social conventions that we have around children, how we like would and this ties with the quote from Paramahansa that Chrissy was reading about this kind of like restless instructions that we give children, because most of us before this work didn't know how to be present with ourselves, so even less so with our kids. And so whenever something was happening, it was like, oh, here, have a candy, or just like distract yourself, instead of honoring how they are feeling and giving them the powers to empower them to move through them and know that they can be like, they can go through that and be all right.
Yeah, that's the first thing I teach them, like showed them, was to feel all the feelings, and that it's okay to have the emotions that they're feeling, especially being boys. I wanted to make sure that they could feel all of it and still know that they are so loved and that I'm not going anywhere, even when they are screaming or shouting at me, or that, you know, they're still going to be there. I'm going to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Thank you for sharing, Anna.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Like, I love everything that everyone has shared. Like, it's been a wonderful after tea discussion. I don't know if anyone feels guided or wants to share anything else.
Yeah, one thing that is coming up, I recently, when I was experiencing a lot of chaos between me and my son, to a point I realized, I still have some childhood trauma. And when I went through MAP, I saw a shift in my relationship with my child. The way the trauma that I have experienced in my childhood, I was still holding on to. And when I was seeing my son, reacting in a way or, that was not comfortable to me, I was not realizing, it's my trauma. And then when I healed that, I saw, drastic shift between me and my son. The way now I am connecting with my son is very, very, very different. And yeah, when we are calling in, divine parenting, the first step is, as Chrissy said, building, embodying that divinity within ourselves, right? And then extending that divinity to son or anybody around us. So that's the piece that I thought to, like as we prepare, when like Michaela and Joss has a, they are preparing them to get into the parenthood, not the case like we had, right? So when we start into medication and or we take physical care, and this is also a aspect, like after experiencing chaos and then going for trauma and healing and all that, this can be a, the way I benefited. Maybe this can be a prevention, just get your spiritual healing, emotional healing, free that yourself before having the baby, and so that we don't pass on that trauma energetically to the baby when the baby is in the womb and all that. Yeah, so that yeah, that feels really good, just grounding that divinity between us and then extending that to my son.
I love that.
Yeah.
I just love that. Yeah, Keely, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So I just wanted to share, my coach Lisi was inviting me recently to, really bring in this teaching more into my ballet school. And so I've been intentionally doing so. And, I have the beautiful gift of not only parenting all of these children, but I also get to parent these other parents, going back to like children's upsets and social expectations, right? And so we have this big, especially in a dance class, we have this huge expectation for them to just go in and not be afraid and just to go do it. And whereas, I know if I were to ask the parent to come join one of my classes, they'd be terrified, right? So I had this little girl the other day, and she was upset, probably like in tears, and just like really, really to her core upset for about 40 minutes. And so I was able to connect with her the last like 3 minutes of class, and we played a little bit, and we're able to just, be playful, and was able to ease her fear quite a bit. And then after class, her mom apologized for her for being a distraction. And my heart just hurt for this little girl who was present and hearing this. And so I said, oh no, children are never a distraction. And so, I think as we move out into the community with this work, we can really support other parents in realizing that no, this child just needs to feel their fear. They just need to feel the fear of not being good enough. And, and that 3 minutes of connection, the next day the child was, and also I think me supporting that parent and the child, the next day the child was actually able to come into class without fear. And she did beautifully. She actually is naturally gifted. And so I just, I think the more that we can socially support, moms who are, really having a hard time with their babies, and they're children and just giving space to them in the world, the more that this work will just transcend and the ripple effect will really take place. So, so I think it's really hard for, it's the hardest on the children. So.
Yeah, and they all, like, when it's not even a distraction, they are just calling for love. At the bottom of it all, it's they are calling for love. And so it's us being able to remain in that place, even as we work through our own stuff, and holding their hands and showing them that they can work through it with us as well. That even because mom or dad are having an upset, it doesn't mean that they are going to be abandoned. Like, this is something that my kid was showing me. Of course, he's like, abandonment is kind of like the core block that I'm working through right now in my union. And my kid was showing me that a lot. So whenever my son was asking for attention, it was a way of saying, Mom, I don't want to feel alone in this place. And like having the tools to actually understand, like read between the lines of what is being communicated to me, so that I know how to give him the support that he's asking for. Not to be like create a codependent relationship, like it's being pointed out. Like on the contrary, being able to help him, guide him, teach him, and being as patient as I have to, in order for him to find that the not so good feeling might be uncomfortable, but he can still choose to move through that and find like so much peace afterward. And he knows that, like, you present two choices to any child, and they instinctively know what is good for them. And so it's being like a great chance to open that scenario. Hi, Shaleia. She just joined our discussion. Um, Speaking about mothering, our beloved, our divine mom. So I feel, yeah, I was going to point to you guys. I felt you had something to say.
Yeah, I want to share the last piece. Like when Christy said, when Jeff and Shaleia were in the end of the classes, and they said like, this is an honor to set you free. And I think this is a very, very important part in parenting, because I see a lot of families that attach a lot, you know, like are resistant to let them fly in a way. It's like you have to recognize that it's an honor to watch your children start, you know, their twin flames, living their purpose and doing something, like Jason said in the service, and not attached to that of like, you know, I need to control something, raise my baby, you know, like let them explore life and let them do something for that. And recognize that you are not there to serve your parents. Your parents are there to serve you for a time. And then you can be like spiritually adult. Yeah. And then that is a most beautiful part, to let them like, you know, go to the world and do their part in, yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, have anything?
I think just one thing is that Chrissy told Jose in his map session that, like, because he has, you know, achieved mastery and we're all doing this work, like the appropriate relationship now is that he would teach his parents, you know, like he can share this work with his parents, and his parents are a little resistant to being able to see him as like, you know, an adult in that way. And so that's why, but it's, yeah, like at a certain point you do become like, have an adult to adult relationship with your parents. And, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that relationship has to like evolve, you know, as the kid grows, the relationship changes. And it's not a bad thing, it's a beautiful thing to like relate in other ways, you know, and to like continue in that new level. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a great lesson then for everyone who's watching this and it's a parent, to also allow ourselves to be more humble, so that we can learn from our children, because it's not a one-way street, it's a two-way street. We are here to guide them and to teach them, but they are here to teach us as well. And it's the same dynamic that we will have with our twin flames, who are our greatest teacher, but at the same time our greatest student. So that's how we help each other grow. That's how we help each other transcend whatever it is there to be transcended. So I love that piece that you've shared with us. It's very important to be open to have that, like that communication, and knowing that you can receive from anyone, even if they are a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 17-year-old, a 60-year-old, it doesn't matter. To God, we are all brothers and sisters. So yeah, that was wonderful. Thank you. I don't know if anyone wants to share anything else. Our time is almost up. And if not, speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay. So thank you everyone for joining us in today's after tea discussion about divine parenting. I hope everyone enjoyed it, and we will see each other on the group and in future sermons as well. Thank you everyone. Have a lovely Sunday. Bye-bye.